You're listening to the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast. How we doing? How we doing? Nothing but a good story. Time Magazine Athlete of the Year, CaitlinClark, no doubt about it. And took it down and moving on to a higher height with CaitlinClark and winning the Time Magazine Award. Folks, that was quite an accomplishment for the WNBA and also for CaitlinClark and to be an outstanding women athlete. And what I had projected was that Caitlin Clark, global women's sports icon, WNBA ambassador, global ambassador, and also now Time Magazine Athlete of the Year. Okay, so that is elevated Caitlin to a different level. And it also, as Caitlin did speak about it, she brought out something that presented a contradiction to what was taking place as she was named the female athlete of the year, right? And so when you get involved in this, and how did it all come together, and what did she do, or how did she position it to be the way that it came out? And here's the bombshell that really came and really just made everything took by shock, and it really went across the board. But the game has been elevated, her position has been elevated, and she said, "I want to say I've earned every single thing, no doubt about it. Every step on that court, I earned that. But as a white person, there is privilege," Clark told Time. "A lot of those players in the league have been really good and have been black players. This league was kind of built, has been built on them." So Caitlin Clark not only knows as far as corporate enterprise business marketing, Caitlin Clark is also well versed in history. She continued, "The more we can appreciate the highlight that talk about that and then continue to have brands and companies invest in those players, they have made this league incredible. I think it's very important. I have to continue to try to change that. The more we can elevate black women, that's going to be a beautiful thing." Now, folks, what you got there, that is really laying it out. And that's coming from the voice of Caitlin Clark. And it really was a bombshell dropped on, I guess you'd say, social media, but also across the media. And to because the narrative that has been positioned for Caitlin Clark is now changed. And she's saying, "No, that's not me. I don't support that." All the racism, all the actions that have been coming out, she is not a supporter of that. And when you look at Caitlin Clark and you move this to being a global women's sports icon, right? You gotta understand that Caitlin is now bigger than the WNBA. And I was bringing that home, and I ran something with Nike, and we looked at it, and I said, "Well, wait a minute, something else is going on here," and I had to reverse my position, and it really was kind of difficult to do that. But when you look at the WNBA and what Caitlin is saying, she's talking about the black players that have played in the WNBA are the ones that built the WNBA. She's also expressing herself and letting everybody know that this game takes more than just Caitlin. And to be able to take a stance on that and looking back at the history of the game of the WNBA and the amount of players who have played in multiple cities, Caitlin is acknowledging that these players were my idols. And she was openly expressing that. And when you look at Caitlin, I mean, obviously she comes out of Iowa. And I mean, she is a basketball junkie. There's no doubt about it. Or what do we call it? We call it a gym rat. Well, that's what Caitlin is. And but at the same time, she's not willing to sacrifice or let her thoughts be the thoughts of others. And it really was a bombshell because now the position as a global women's sports icon, and that means across the United States and all countries, okay, and also being a WNBA ambassador. which I did share. The WNBA will eventually have to have a new face of the WNBA because she's moving on, and it's going to be a little difficult to be both because Caitlin is moving on into another arena trajectory, and Nike is rolling this out and trying to make sure they cover all the bases. So when you look at it, you look at the history of the WNBA and what has happened in the WNBA and how they played this game and what has been able to move the players who have played it and who have given the sweat equity. And you look back at it to say only because they didn't make money, they were not valuable to the WNBA. And that's a tough false statement because the WNBA, the platform that Caitlin is playing on today, as she said, the league was built off the black players, okay, off their back. So that's getting into a little bit of history, but it's time, and this has went on long enough, and the women have expressed themselves, and rightfully so. They had a right to say, "Look, we built this league, we sacrificed." Really, they did. They played for no money, and now all of the accolades is coming in. And really, what Caitlin was saying, it's not just me. And when you look at somebody like CaitlinClark and you say, "Wow, how could she take this stand?" And being the athlete, the women athlete of the year, okay, and to go 1 year removed from Iowa, and now you're moving into being the ambassador, the global women's sports icon is now Caitlin Clark. And that is what you have now, folks. And this is a little different because you haven't seen this rapidly move so fast before as it has moved for Caitlin. It doesn't matter what sports she's in, doesn't matter if it's NASCAR, if it's LPGA, being in soccer. I mean, she's going across the board, and Nike is really working hard to develop a unisex shoe. And they've been engaged, and you know what has transpired. And I look back at David Petroy with the Barstool when he really said Caitlin, when she signed her contract, it was the largest contract ever given to a woman athlete. And now you're reaching in a zone where David expressed Barstool that the fact that Caitlin's value is about 100 to 150 million dollars, and that is correct now. The contract of 28 million really is almost literally have to be renegotiated because Caitlin Clark is now a global icon world figure. And that is huge, folks. I'm just going to tell you that one there is extremely huge because now you're looking at somebody that can move markets across the globe, and that's what Caitlin Clark can do. And it's very interesting because you're going to see a change not only in the media, you're going to see a change not only in the coverage of the WNBA because the game has been elevated and the negative connotation has been printing out there, or the racism, or it's black versus white player. Caitlin Clark has put a lid on that, and we'll walk down and cover it from in the end. This is just the introductory story, but it coming out just as I said that she will be the face, the global face of women's sports, and that you have to move forward with and understand. And what did she do? She built that presence as an excellent basketball player, willing to take on the WNBA. However, the premise or the narrative that was built was black versus white, and she wanted no part of that, and she's expressed herself. So you must give Caitlin the honor, okay, and acknowledge that she has come out to the world and saying my position is not the position that the media is reporting, and it's time to clean it up. And I agree with it. We're going to keep going on this because there's only about 100 subtitles.